I like the idea of treating silk painting not only as a decorative art, but also as a fine art. And that's why I talk so much about volume and picturesqueness on my channel. And let's see how this tulip can be painted on silk in a three-dimensional and painterly way. Just today we are going to put into practice what I showed in this video. This we will have the height of the tulip and the width. And at the top it's a kind of a cylinder, and the bottom part of it goes into a sphere. Let's say there are petals here, but the light and shadow are distributed like this. This is the highlights, the lightest part, and then we have the halftone. And of course there is a tone, which is a bit darker. And this is the whole part in the shadow. And as we remember, the edge of the shadow is always the darkest. That's a reflex. But we have another leaf here, and that will influence the way we paint the flower. Here the color of the leaf will be sort of reflected in the flower. And I'm going to amplify again the edge of the shade. And that's where we have the reflex. And I'm drawing around the tulip with the resist. As always, the metal nozzle is screwed on the tube of resist. It allows to draw a neater line. Now we wait for resist to dry. Before I paint, I wet the tulip with water, and so that it's not too wet and the water is evenly distributed on the surface, I dry it with a paper towel. And I will start with the highlights. They have a cold hue. It's a halftone. And here I mark the spherical surface of the flower. And then we have the shadow. Well, actually I repeat what I have just shown with the pencil, but only in color. You see, I haven't yet painted the leaf, but I already know it is there, and I immediately put the color of the leaf in the tulip. The borders of the color can be rubbed with a brush. Today I use liquid silk paints, which must be steamed. In this video I want to emphasize the painting, so both the paints and the palette are behind the scenes. To make sure the paint is not too liquid, I dry the brush with a paper towel. The most important thing here is to trace the spots of color and shadow and slowly build up the color intensity and saturation. In this case, it's easier to move from light to dark. And don't forget about painterly, varying the color if possible. When it's too intense, I wash it out with water. And I emphasize the edge of the shadow. And notice that it doesn't go along the edge of the petal, but along the edge of the overall shape. I intentionally exaggerate the contrast to make the idea more obvious, although I will still remove the excess color with the tissue paper, and this petal seems to me a little dark and the wrong color. And finally, the leaves. It's time for them to get some color. I find the lightest spot again, then the darkest. In this kind of painting, the main thing is to control the degree of wetness of the brush. I always dry the brush when it already has paint on it. In the highlights, the color is cooler. If you look closely, all the objects, all the elements of the image impact each other, so the color of the leaves are in the flower. Of course, I'm telling you the principle of painting, not the feeling with one color. But I really wanted to say, and this is what I do in my videos, that silk painting can be treated not only as a decorative art, but also as a fine art. And of course, I understand that it's a complicated way of painting, but your tulip will be so lively, so picturesque, so complex. You will love it. The main thing is to look carefully at the reference and compare where the color is warmer, where it's cooler, where it's darker, and where it's lighter. Right now my brush is so dry that it spreads out, and that's why I get these individual strokes. I always dry the brush when it already has paint on it. But because the silk is wet, they're still going to spread out a little bit afterwards. To make the highlights more pronounced, I make the halftone darker. I would like it if you'd give me your reaction to this video. On this petal, the highlights can be as light as on this one, because it's more distant from the light source, so I muted it. And that highlight on the leaf makes me want to hide it.